creativity, character, and the power of rules. What Mark Harmon's favorite Gibbs rule really reveals. For more than 2 decades, fans of the television phenomenon NCIS have admired the quiet authority, emotional restraint, and razor-sharp instincts of Leroy Jethro Gibbs. Played with unforgettable precision by Mark Harmon, Gibbs became far more than a fictional investigator. He evolved into a symbol of discipline, loyalty, and integrity in modern television storytelling. One of the defining characteristics of the character was his famous collection of Gibbs rules, a set of life principles that guided both investigations and personal conduct. When Harmon revealed that he personally follows one particular rule in real life, audiences were not surprised. The revelation felt authentic because the actor and the character had long seemed intertwined. The fascination surrounding Gibbs' rules is not simply about catchy television dialogue. The rules resonate because they represent a creative approach to understanding human behavior. They condense complicated emotional truths into memorable lines. In many ways, the rules demonstrate how creativity often thrives not in chaos, but in structure. The story of Harmon embracing one of Gibbs' rules in his own life reveals something profound about creativity itself. Meaningful creativity is often rooted in discipline, consistency, and personal philosophy. At first glance, creativity and rules may appear incompatible. Popular culture frequently presents creativity as spontaneous inspiration, a lightning strike of genius unrestricted by boundaries. Artists, writers, musicians, and actors are often portrayed as rebels who reject structure entirely. Yet history repeatedly proves the opposite. Some of the greatest creative achievements emerge from carefully developed systems, routines, and principles. Harmon's admiration for Gibbs' rules illustrates this idea perfectly. The rules are not restrictions designed to suffocate imagination. They are frameworks that help people navigate complexity with clarity. One reason Gibbs' rules became culturally iconic is because they transformed ordinary wisdom into emotionally resonant storytelling devices. A simple statement such as, "Never apologize, it's a sign of weakness," or "Always carry a knife," instantly sparked curiosity. Some rules were humorous, some controversial, and others deeply philosophical. Each one hinted at years of hidden experiences within Gibbs' life. The audience never saw the complete origin of every rule immediately, which created mystery and emotional depth. That creative decision by the writers of NCIS turned a procedural drama into something far more personal. Harmon's performance amplified that effect. He delivered the rules with understated confidence rather than dramatic flair. This restraint became part of the character's identity. Creativity in acting often depends less on exaggeration and more on subtle control. Harmon understood that silence, posture, and timing could communicate more powerfully than lengthy speeches. His interpretation of Gibbs transformed the rules into emotional anchors for the audience. The idea that Harmon follows his favorite Gibbs rule in real life blurs the line between fiction and authenticity. That connection matters because audiences today crave sincerity. Modern entertainment is saturated with spectacle, but viewers still respond most strongly to characters and performers who feel emotionally genuine. Harmon's appeal has always come from his grounded presence. He never seemed desperate for attention or celebrity status. Instead, he projected steadiness. That steadiness made the character believable. Creativity often emerges from precisely that kind of authenticity. The most memorable creative works are not merely clever, they feel true. Whether in literature, television, music, or visual art, audiences recognize emotional honesty instinctively. Harmon's relationship with Gibbs demonstrates how creative storytelling becomes more powerful when performers connect personally with the material. By embracing a role from the character in his own life, Harmon effectively confirmed that the wisdom behind Gibbs was not entirely fictional. It reflected values that resonated beyond the script. Another fascinating aspect of Gibbs' rules is how they simplify life's complexity into concise lessons. This simplicity is itself a form of creativity. Truly creative communication often involves reducing complicated ideas into memorable expressions. Consider famous quotations throughout history. Their power lies not in elaborate language, but in clarity. Gibbs' rules function similarly. They are short enough to remember, but meaningful enough to provoke reflection. This balance between simplicity and depth is extraordinarily difficult to achieve creatively. Writers often mistake complexity for intelligence, loading dialogue with excessive detail. Yet the most iconic lines in television history tend to be direct and emotionally clear. The writers behind NCIS understood this principle well. By giving Gibbs concise rules instead of long philosophical monologues, they created something timeless. Harmon's delivery also reflected a sophisticated understanding of restraint in creativity. Modern entertainment frequently rewards loud performances and exaggerated emotion. Harmon succeeded by doing the opposite. Gibbs rarely raised his voice unnecessarily. He communicated authority through calmness. This subtlety made his emotional moments far more impactful because they felt earned rather than manufactured. The relationship between creativity and discipline becomes especially visible in long-running television series. Sustaining audience engagement for decades requires extraordinary consistency. Actors must repeatedly inhabit the same character while still finding fresh emotional dimensions. Writers must balance familiarity with innovation. Harmon's portrayal of Gibbs achieved this balance remarkably well. The rules provided continuity, while evolving emotional contexts gave them new meaning over time. This dynamic reflects a broader truth about creativity in any field. Innovation rarely happens without some form of structure. Musicians practice scales before improvising masterpieces. Painters study anatomy before abstract experimentation. Writers learn grammar before bending literary conventions. Similarly, Gibbs' rules provided a structural foundation within the series, allowing emotional creativity to flourish around them. Harmon's connection to the rules also reveals how creativity can influence personal identity. Fictional characters often shape cultural values because audiences internalize their philosophies. Fans of Gibbs adopted many of the rules not merely because they were entertaining, but because they offered practical guidance. This phenomenon demonstrates the power of storytelling to shape behavior. Great creative work does not simply entertain temporarily, it lingers psychologically. The influence of Mark Harmon extends beyond acting because he represented a specific kind of masculinity rarely emphasized in modern media. Gibbs was tough but not reckless, emotionally wounded but dependable, authoritative yet compassionate beneath the surface. Harmon portrayed strength as quiet responsibility rather than arrogance. That creative characterization resonated deeply with audiences seeking stability in uncertain times. Interestingly, the popularity of Gibbs' rules also reflects humanity's desire for order. Life is unpredictable, relationships are complicated, and moral decisions are often ambiguous. Rules offer reassurance. They create the illusion that wisdom can prepare us for chaos. Creativity becomes especially powerful when it addresses universal emotional needs. The writers in Harmon understood that audiences did not merely enjoy watching crime solved, they enjoyed seeing a worldview that imposed meaning on disorder. This explains why Gibbs became more than a fictional investigator. He evolved into a mentor figure for many viewers. His rules provided emotional clarity in situations where people often feel uncertain. Even when the rules were imperfect or contradictory, they carried emotional authority because they emerged from experience. Creativity succeeds when it reflects recognizable human struggles, and Gibbs embodied those struggles consistently. The endurance of NCIS itself offers a lesson about creativity in popular culture. Many shows depend heavily on trends, visual effects, or sensational storytelling. Those elements may create temporary excitement, but they rarely sustain long-term emotional investment. NCIS survived because it focused on character relationships and emotional familiarity. Gibbs' rules became symbolic of that deeper connection. Harmon's decision to follow his favorite rule in real life reinforces the authenticity that audiences sensed all along. It suggests that the rule was not merely clever writing, but a genuine philosophy worthy of practice. This authenticity strengthens the emotional legacy of the series because it confirms that the values portrayed on screen mattered beyond entertainment. Creativity frequently involves discovering universal truths through fictional forms. The best stories do not lecture audiences directly. Instead, they embed ideas within characters and narratives. Gibbs' rules worked because they emerged naturally from the characters' experiences. Viewers absorbed the lessons emotionally rather than intellectually. That subtle influence is one of storytelling's greatest powers. The connection between creativity and memory is also important here. Audiences remember Gibbs' rules because they were repeated consistently across years of storytelling. Repetition can become a creative tool when used effectively. Rather than feeling redundant, the recurring rules created continuity and emotional familiarity. Each time Gibbs referenced a rule, viewers felt connected to the broader history of the character. This sense of continuity mirrors real life. People often develop personal philosophies through repeated experiences and lessons. Harmon's appreciation for one particular rule suggests that he recognized its enduring relevance. Creativity becomes meaningful when it intersects with lived experience. Fictional ideas gain power when audiences, and even performers themselves, apply them personally. Another significant aspect of Harmon's portrayal is the way he balanced authority with vulnerability. Gibbs was often emotionally guarded, yet moments of grief, guilt, and compassion surfaced throughout the series. These emotional contradictions made the character human. Creativity in character development depends on complexity. Perfect characters are rarely compelling because they lack emotional tension. Gibbs' flaws made his wisdom feel earned rather than artificial. This emotional realism contributed enormously to the cultural impact of the rules. Viewers trusted Gibbs because they witnessed his pain. His principles were not abstract theories, but survival mechanisms shaped by tragedy and experience. Harmon communicated this history through subtle expression rather than exposition. That understated approach required immense creative discipline. The broader cultural fascination with rules and routines may also explain why audiences connected so strongly with Gibbs. In an era dominated by rapid technological change and constant distraction, structured principles offer emotional stability. Creativity does not always mean inventing something entirely new. Sometimes it means presenting timeless ideas in fresh, emotionally resonant ways. Gibbs' rules accomplished precisely that. Harmon's real-life connection to the rules highlights another important truth. Creativity can inspire ethical reflection. Many forms of entertainment focus exclusively on escapism, but memorable storytelling often encourages audiences to reconsider their own values. Fans discussed Gibbs' rules because they invited interpretation. Which rules were wise? Which were flawed? Which applied to real life? These conversations extended the show's influence far beyond weekly episodes. The creative success of NCIS also demonstrates the importance of collaboration. While Harmon became the face of Gibbs, the character emerged from the combined efforts of writers, directors, producers, and fellow actors. Creativity is rarely isolated genius. It is often collective refinement. Gibbs' rules became iconic because every creative element, writing, acting, pacing, and storytelling, worked together harmoniously. Moreover, Harmon's enduring popularity reveals the emotional power of consistency. In a celebrity culture often driven by controversy and reinvention, Harmon maintained a reputation for professionalism and steadiness. This consistency mirrored Gibbs himself. Audiences trusted both the actor and the character because neither seemed performative or artificial. Creativity rooted in authenticity tends to endure longer than creativity driven purely by novelty. The enduring fascination with Gibbs' rules ultimately reflects a deeper human truth. People are constantly searching for guidance, small principles capable of helping them navigate uncertainty. Fiction becomes powerful when it provides emotional frameworks that feel applicable to real life. Harmon's favorite rule mattered not because it was dramatic, but because it expressed something recognizable about human behavior. In many ways, the legacy of Gibbs and Harmon reveals that creativity is not simply about invention, it is about connection. Great creative work connects audiences to emotions, memories, values, and aspirations. Gibbs' rules connected viewers to ideas about loyalty, discipline, caution, and resilience. Harmon's personal embrace of one rule strengthened that connection because it suggested that these ideas possessed genuine meaning outside fiction. The story also challenges simplistic assumptions about creativity itself. True creativity is not necessarily chaotic or rebellious. Sometimes it emerges through consistency, discipline, and deeply held principles. The rules that guided Gibbs symbolized this paradox beautifully. They imposed structure while simultaneously revealing emotional complexity. Harmon's admiration for one of those rules demonstrates how creative storytelling can shape real-world identity and behavior. Ultimately, the enduring appeal of Mark Harmon and Gibbs lies in their shared authenticity. Audiences recognized something genuine beneath the fictional framework. The rules were memorable because they reflected emotional truths rather than manufactured cleverness. Creativity succeeded because it served character rather than spectacle. As television continues evolving in an increasingly fragmented media landscape, the legacy of Gibbs' rules remains significant. They remind audiences that memorable storytelling does not depend solely on shocking twists or visual extravagance. Sometimes the most enduring creative ideas are simple principles delivered with honesty and conviction. Harmon understood this instinctively, which is why his portrayal of Gibbs became iconic. The revelation that he follows his favorite Gibbs rule in real life therefore feels less like surprising celebrity trivia and more like confirmation of something audiences sensed all along. The line between actor and character blurred because both represented similar values: discipline, integrity, and quiet strength. That emotional authenticity transformed a procedural crime drama into a lasting cultural phenomenon.